Okay, Charlie, I've had a look at your draft, and I have to say, I think you have rather rushed into this. I think I very clearly said that not to work on the layout until you had written your whole text, because that was the most important part. And apart from the fact that your layout is still making it really difficult for me to actually read what you've written, you need to be looking at that. But let's move on to what you have written. Again, I have a very, very strong feeling that you haven't actually read this out loud, and that you've submitted something that you're expecting me to work magic with. So you'll be getting the copy that I've highlighted. We've got grammatical errors in red, and we've got just poor editing or some things that aren't quite stacking up in yellow. So your idea of a girl sits on the couch in a baggy. I think. Hang on. You need to really understand with this to start with is you're writing a persuasive opinion piece, and therefore you need to be making sure that you have a very logical argument. You also have to make sure that you have authority, and I think you've made an attempt to have to use tone quite well, because your tone is generally rather angry. But I think with these things, you really need to, when you've got some girl sitting on a couch in a baggy jumper sweating. I don't know why she's sweating. And flicks the channel to channel 9. So already there's repetition, which could have been avoided if you'd read this out loud to yourself and edited it before you submitted it. You spelt Victoria's Secrets incorrectly in the first 3 lines. So again, if you're a journalist and you want to send something to be published, you need to make sure that you are responsible for your editing. She's got a bowl of popcorn for amusement. I'm not really understanding how that's working. I think it would be a lot stronger and more powerful if you actually found a personal story of a girl who has been succumbed to appalling anorexia because of an obsession with Victoria's Secret. Again, something that you could have found with a bit more research. Now, onto your expression. You say here in yellow, we ignore it, but our in-depth understanding of objectification against women has viewed and depicted us as objects rather than people. I really am not quite sure what that means. And again, this is an online article. You can use words like objectification, but viewed and depicted, you're succumbing to being too wordy, which is something that we've talked about, and you need to be much, much better at finding out, at checking yourself. And if you're saying, and what do you mean we ignore it? But our in-depth understanding of objectification against women has viewed us and depicted us as objects rather than people, leading to body shaming. I mean, I would like to see your argument and how you're thinking about working through your argument, because you need to have logic, appealing to logic, and then underpinning or overlaying use of pathos and ethos and language techniques. You say, we still continue to encourage this distorted body expectation through watching the 1-hour telecast parading beautiful Victoria's Secret models. Surely it's the media that is manipulating young teenagers into watching these parades of absolutely impossible bodies walking down the runway. So you need to be very clear, Charlie. Who are you attacking here? Are you attacking us, your target audience, because we're encouraging this distorted body expectation? Or are you encouraging the fashion houses and the media in general who perpetrate this distorted body image and manipulate their young, vulnerable teenage and young adult women to believe that this is achieved effortlessly. So it's missing the mark at the moment, Charlie. And then you switch from, so you've got a girl sitting on the couch, then you switch to we're ignoring it, but we encourage this. And then you suddenly switch again to what is Victoria's Secret. I think those are 3 separate paragraphs in the build-up of your argument. In a persuasive argument, introduce and give an overview of the issue. You might want to start with a strong hook, which might be that personal story of some poor girl who's possibly even died, but has become incredibly harmed physically and mentally through extreme eating disorders caused by this. Then look at the media and how they are perpetrating this. And then hone in, so focus on Victoria's Secret itself as so you say, with this self-objectification, this girl begins to watch the models parade down. I don't know what you mean by with this self-objectification. This girl's watching the models parade down the runway, and it's not a runaway, it's a runway. She doubts the curvy figure she lounges in, questioning why she could never look like that in those undies. And here I've said, your argument's not progressing logically. You haven't got any authority, you haven't got an expert opinion here to back up what you're saying. Now you move on to, we live in a society that is perpetually obsessed with social media and its double standard expectations. Again, a little bit of editing yourself would have made it clear that this doesn't really make sense. And it's not social media itself, it's media and social media. And I think, and it's double standards is the phrase, not double standard expectations. But what do you mean by double standard? Double standards. Why is it a double standard? It's not a double standard because they don't give us the flip side. Yes, it is perpetuating a view of the perfect, that we all have to be perfect and no one's allowed to have any faults, but that's not a double standard. It's an unrealistic standard. It's a terrible standard that we're all being held to. Very thin, tall, young, and cellulite free. I mean, this is very much, there's not enough authority here, Charlie, and we must achieve these ideals to be sexy, bold, and beautiful. But where are you backing this up? Where's your expert opinion? Where's your psychological studies? And why have you put sexy, bold, and beautiful in quotation marks, and actually incorrect quotation marks? We are dreaming right. So who's we? And here it should be we're dreaming, right? So moving on. And Victoria's Secret. Yes, again, spelt incorrectly, Charlie. A company built by their dubbed angels. Now just check, does angels need a capital letter? Should it be in inverted commas? Seeking fortune revolving around hoisting up breasts and covering derrieres. The number one culprit to putting all of these, in inverted commas, labels into a box. It's just all a bit vague. It's a method that sadly defines us. Now, here I can't really read what's going on. Restricting, self-defeating, cruel. So you've tried to mix up your sentence lengths, but again, it's just not really ringing true, I'm afraid. And then suddenly we're back to the girl and her popcorn. She puts down the popcorn and switches the television off, and something is ticking in her mind. It's not working, Charlie. You need to replan this as a really well argued, researched, and logically progressed, persuasive argument, because you say that at the end that you're going to have a call to action, but it's not ringing true at the moment. You say here, dietitians statistically have proven in a clinical study that 95% of all dieters will regain the weight. So this is fine, but that's just general. which dietitians? Quote an actual dietitian, quote an actual study. And now this is better because you're actually going on to the science behind how diets slow down weight loss, because you're trying to help girls or your target audience to understand that it really is pointless trying to diet because it's a self-defeating exercise. But when you say this therefore creates an extreme risk to other weight loss alternatives, eating disorders. Well, an eating disorder is not a weight loss alternative. It is the result of extreme weight loss and mental illness. So again, you need to check your facts. Too many grammatical errors. Your mum's hips. Well, we need possessive apostrophes. We don't need capital letters. But I understand what you're getting at, and the tone there is fine. This is where you move back into your chatty, friendly tone, where you're bringing your target audience back on side. Genetics are a strange cocktail that is unique to each individual in this world. Well, is it a strange cocktail? Or is it something, yes, it's unique to each of us, but aren't we all subjected to genetics? So you've got quite a lot of tidying up to do. Sadly, what this girl doesn't realize when she wakes up. So again, this girl is just this faceless, nameless girl who's sitting on a couch sweating, and I can't really picture. She's not really making me want to rise up and sign a petition against Victoria's Secret. I think what you need here is more logical argument about what goes on behind the scenes, and that's what I thought we had discussed in class. What goes on behind the scenes of these shows, and what do they put the models put through, their regimen, and they are being abused. Complete recipe for an organ failure. Well, yeah. That doesn't really work. It's not an organ failure, it's organ failure. And then you carry on, but we cannot just blame. By the way, I think this has gone well over the 500-word limit that I set. So again, I'm afraid, Charlie, you're not really following my instructions, which I did give for a reason. Of televised notion of unrealistic, full stop, beauty expectations, full stop. So this is all grammatical that you need to be working on. For young people, getting likes and comments in this virtual world empowers accomplishment and acceptance. So are you saying here that it's a good thing? Because that's what you're writing. Getting likes and comments in this virtual empowers. Empowers is a fantastic thing if we feel empowered. But again, it's losing it. You're shooting yourself in the foot here. And then you're back to this nameless girl. She opens Instagram and scrolls through her feed, intensely shaming her body for these ideals she will never meet. But she's not shaming her body. She's being made to feel ashamed of her body by the Kardashian and celebrities who are posting these ridiculous pictures of themselves on Instagram. So we're attacking. You need to be attacking them, not her. And spends a lifetime self-objectifying her own body shame. I don't know what that means. And now this bit here is just all too difficult to read. So, Charlie, you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to really look at your persuasive techniques. You need to rewrite your argument so that it follows a logical and cohesive pattern. And you need to make sure that you are looking back at those articles that you annotated or used as research. There's a balance between the authoritative tone backed up by expert opinion and stats and evidence, and the inclusive language to keep their target audience on board.